right, so this is the press conference from today.
Here are the facts. The terrorist who gunned down American soldiers blocks away from the White House in an ambush was an Afghan national who was flown into our country by Joe Biden's administration in September 2021 in the chaotic wake of their botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. One of the most embarrassing moments in the history of our great country. Joe Biden's historic failure in Afghanistan continues to haunt this country and our men
Kingdom
and
of
women
Heaven's
in
another
uniform.
good one.
Not only did this surrender lead to a suicide bombing that killed 13 American heroes in Kabul, but now National Guard troops were shot on U.S. soil by the same kind of enemy. We continue to live with the deadly consequences of Joe Biden's horrific leadership. Nearly 100,000 Afghans were recklessly released into the United States with little to no vetting. There was no regard for the disorder and violence that this would unleash on American communities and American culture. Reportedly, thousands of these strangers and unknown individuals were flagged to the Biden administration for national security, public safety, and fraud concerns. But the terrifying truth is that the Afghanistan debacle is just a small part of Democrats' complete and total betrayal of the American people during the Biden years. The tragedy that we just witnessed the day before Thanksgiving is a reminder that untold thousands of terrorists, gang members, and criminals were invited into our country and remain here to this very day. The border is now secure, thanks to President Trump, but the threat in our interior remains real and urgent. These public safety threats are already inside our land. And President Trump was elected on a promise to find and remove them. And he has already taken significant steps and made significant progress towards fulfilling this promise. But there is more work to be done because President Trump believes that he has a sacred obligation to reverse the calamity of mass, unchecked migration into our country. As a result, the Trump administration is now actively re-examining all of the Afghans imported into the country by Joe Biden.
See, that's right there. That's the reason why a lot of these Afghans that are here, that were brought here, are worried. The ones that are like the good ones who are, actually trying to settle here and relocate and trying to keep their families safe, that were our partners and stuff like that. That's why they're probably worried, because they're saying things like this, which, I think more than likely, I think that the administration will probably start to there's a lot of people in the administration that were part of the evacuation that are trying to make sure that the nuance of this is known. So that way there isn't any crazy knee-jerk reaction. But, you can also understand why the response to this is so vicious, because, it was a brutal, vicious attack on our homeland to one of our to multiple service members, and is like a heinous, disgusting, despicable thing and shouldn't be allowed to happen in the country. So I can also understand why people are reacting the way that they are, but there's definitely going to need to be a very nuanced approach to this, because I think a lot of people that we worked with, that supported us over there, that helped us, that came here, because obviously if they stayed, their families would be targeted. They would be targeted. Anybody that worked with the Americans while we were over there, were going to be targeted and likely lose all of their family members and everything to the Taliban. So it's going to be a tough road. It's going to be a tough road.
Any individual who threatens our national security or our citizenry will be subject to removal.
And that also is understandable, because you also have to be very decisive with protecting the homeland, so you have to do that too. So it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to find balance on.
President Trump has already permanently paused migration of foreign nationals from third world countries that pose a very high risk to the United States. For too long, past American presidents supported self-destructive immigration policies that allowed foreigners who outright hate our country and have no interest in assimilating into our culture.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, you said the interpreters that were great. So sad bad actors can ruin it for everybody. That's the problem, because you get one bad person from that batch of people that does something disgustingly heinous like what this one did, and then everyone perceives the entire group as if they were all like that, and it's tough because, I mean, when something heinous like this happens, something horribly despicable like that happens, I mean, I can understand why people react the way that they do to it. I mean, like a 20-year-old guardsman lost her life, and then another 24-year-old, I believe Andrew Wolf is 24 years old, I think, still very young, critically injured in the hospital, fighting for his life right now. So the tensions are very high, especially in relation to immigration right now.
They've allowed these individuals to flood peaceful American communities. This disastrous approach has drained our welfare program, driven up the cost of housing, suppressed wages, and jeopardized the safety of law-abiding American citizens. In fact, according to a new bombshell report from the New York Times, Somalian migrants in Minnesota have defrauded nearly $1 billion in taxpayer-funded benefits under Democrat Governor Walz's leadership.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. I made a video about that earlier today because that is absolutely insane. I think the Department of Human Services of Minnesota literally lambasted Governor Walz on Twitter. Like, I think the post that they made got like 44 million views. It was bad. They roasted him, like publicly roasted him and basically the Department of Human Services of Minnesota basically said that all of the fraud and everything was his fault because they like repeatedly tried to attempt to, get with him to fix it, but he did not do it. He did not fix it. And that is now it's on the national stage.
President Trump is putting an end to this dangerous America Last approach. His position is rooted in common sense. In the wake of last week's atrocity, it is more important than ever to finish carrying out the president's mass deportation operation. America cannot allow millions upon millions of unvetted illegal aliens to be rewarded with amnesty after they broke our nation's laws to come here. They must go back to their home countries. It is also essential to immediately address the massive fraud and corruption that has been going on for decades in other aspects of our immigration system, most notably when it comes to asylum claims. Millions of people who have come here under false pretenses are told blatant lies now enjoy temporary legal status. President Trump is ending this scam as well, and I would point out that the Democrats have tried to block this administration from doing so at every turn with lawsuit after lawsuit.
Yeah, I think they're putting a pause on granting asylum claims right now. I think they're freezing the asylum claims process temporarily.
The hard truth is that even when it comes to our legal immigration system, past presidents have failed to ensure that all prospective citizens love America, will add value and contribute to our communities, and will assimilate.
Yeah, immigration is a very tough subject, and it is a subject that is very commonly talked about right now. It is a very popular topic of conversation across all of Europe. It's definitely a big popular topic of conversation all over the United States, Australia, Canada, a lot of places are talking about immigration. If you look at like the statistics for, how immigration has been impacting nations in Europe, for example, I think every single country has been severely impacted by it in one way or another, whether it's positive or negative, except for, I think, Poland. I think Poland is the only nation over there that's like kind of, kept things locked down for the most part. And I don't know if there's a specific reason why, or if they're just like, yeah, we're taking this very serious. But I know that the UK has been heavily impacted by it. France has been heavily impacted by it. Italy's been heavily impacted by it. And what else? I think Denmark, Norway, a lot of these places have been very, very heavily impacted by a lot of migration and a lot of asylum claims and all this other stuff.
Into our culture. Leaders have a duty to defend and advance the interests of their own people, not foreign nationals. Leaders also have a duty to preserve the integrity and character of our nation's national identity.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. Vetting immigration is very difficult because there's issues of public health concerns, bringing tuberculosis and ASF and other diseases that our country doesn't have. That's a good point because, like, you know, as service members, when you deploy, you get vaccinated for all these diseases that are not typically found in the United States because, you know, you're going to a region where those diseases exist a little bit more. They're a little bit more commonly found. But when you bring a lot of people from other nations in a large quantity to the United States all at one time, you know, it's tough to screen everybody for all types of like bacteria, viruses, illnesses, diseases, and things like that. And that's a very tough one because what are you going to do? Mass vaccinate everybody that comes over here? Like that's a tough thing, you know, and that's very costly as well because obviously vaccinations are expensive. And if you're vaccinating 100,000 people, that's a lot of money. And if it's getting done from the military, then that means that it's publicly funded. It is paid by taxpayer funding. So that's a very complicated subject.
That is why President Trump is more committed than ever to fully restore.
Also true what Hussein's saying. All these people that are coming by boat are escaping their country for a reason, whether it be because of conflict, because of persecution, because of war, because of, you know, they're trying to get to a place where they can find a better job and make better money. There's a lot of people come from Africa, a lot of African nations. There's people that are flooding across the border to Europe because they're just trying to get the hell out.
American sovereignty by keeping our borders secure, removing all illegal alien invaders, and rebuilding a legal immigration system that makes sense.
I can't imagine being a border country that borders the Mediterranean Sea because, like, I'm sure that there's floods of people coming into these border countries that are right on the Mediterranean because they're trying to either go to that country or they're trying to go through that country to get to Europe. And that's a tough one.
And benefits our country. President Trump has no higher responsibility than to defend our homeland and our people, and he will never waver in doing so.
All right. Well, I think that's probably, there's a lot of other stuff that she said as well, but I think that was a very interesting portion of the press conference.